Welcome to another edition of Driver's Alert Safety Talks. I'm Rich Sordahl. If you possess a driver's license, somewhere there's a motor vehicle record on you. How important is an MVR? In a study conducted by the California Department of Motor Vehicles entitled An Inventory of California Driver Accident Risk Factors, researchers found the prior total citation frequency continues to be the most significant predictor of crash involvement, followed by prior crash involvement frequency. Two pieces of information commonly reported in an MVR. Here to discuss the topic of MVRs is Occupational Health and Safety expert, Dr. Ron Kirsch. Doctor, thank you for joining us.
My pleasure.
Doctor, let's start off with a general question. What part do MVRs play in managing the overall safety of a company's fleet?
Well, there's two main components. It's risk mitigation and compliance. On the risk mitigation front, you have the initial employment screening and background checks, as well as MVR monthly monitoring. On the compliance side, you're always required to run an annual MVR for your commercial driver's license holders. You may also want to run them for other employees who operate any other company vehicles. And even if they're operating their own vehicle, it may be a good idea to run them on them as well, because you could have potential liability. And it's also a requirement of most insurance carriers.
Okay. Exactly what type of information can one expect to find in an MVR, and just how consistent is that reporting format across states?
Well, it varies from state to state, Rich. Some states rely on a DMV database for the Department of Motor Vehicles. Other states rely on criminal court clerk records. So they are hoping that across their state, the criminal court clerks will enter the information into the databases in a timely manner, and that data is generally aggregated together. So you find a wide variety of information from state to state. You typically will find out if their license status is current and active, what class license they have, what endorsements they have, and if there's been any kind of traffic violations or citations, DUIs, and those kinds of things. But other states, for example, Hawaii, they will only tell you that there's an active driver in their system and what citations they might have.
Oh, wow. How far back does one's driving history go in an MVR?
That also varies from state to state. Some states go back 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, or even 10 or more, but it varies from state to state.
Okay. Referring back to the same California Department of Motor Vehicles study that I opened the segment with, total citation frequency continues to be the number one predictor of crash involvement, followed by prior crash involvement frequency. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, I think that makes a lot of sense, and it really jives with what we see in our behavioral observation programs, where you have observations of drivers having one or more kind of events. They typically are more likely to have an at-fault accident. So it makes total sense.
Okay. Let's switch to the topic of MVR accuracy. So in an Insurance Research Council report entitled Accuracy of Motor Vehicle Records and Analysis of Traffic Convictions, research revealed that there are several concerning issues related to the accuracy of MVRs. And some of the findings include that more than 1 in 5 convictions for traffic violations were missing from MVRs in some states. And convictions for out-of-state drivers were more likely to be missing from MVRs than convictions for drivers licensed within that state. And in fact, nationwide, 8 states don't record all or most convictions issued in other states.
Yeah.
And finally, with respect to DUI violations, research revealed that convictions were missing from approximately 1 in 10 Ohio MVRs to as many as 1 in 5 MVRs in the state of Florida. So, Dr. Kirsch, does this concern you?
Yeah, absolutely. The accuracy of MVRs is always a problem, and one of the reasons we recommend monthly MVR monitoring. States may be missing data if they don't have a DMV database and relying on criminal court clerk records to aggregate that data, or you're missing also potential things that haven't been adjudicated yet, or if, say, perhaps someone's gone through a driver's school and that citation was dismissed. So you often are going to be missing information that could be indicative of bad driver behavior.
Okay. Let's try a hypothetical scenario for a moment. Let's say I'm a new fleet manager and I'm being tasked with ordering MVRs for all of my drivers to identify if there are any safety issues that need to be addressed. Where would I start? what information do I look for, and what exactly do I do when I have that information?
Yeah. Well, it starts with an accurate driver roster. You want to make sure that that information is accurate, and you're going to need to validate that data by having first name, last name, date of birth, driver's license number, the driver's license state. You need to also determine if that driver was ever licensed in another state, and if they have surrendered that license. And then you want to look for things that are probably pretty obvious to make sure that they have a valid current license, what certifications or endorsements they might have. And then you're looking for at-fault accidents, DUIs, reckless driving, some of those things that are really pretty obvious to look for. Perhaps less obvious and really key red flags to look out for are improper lane changes, failure to yield, those types of things. A lot of people wouldn't necessarily look for those types of violations, but according to the American Transportation Research Institute, people that are involved in improper lane changes, failure to yield, they are more likely to have an at-fault accident between 91 and 105%.
Wow.
Now, those who are involved in reckless driving, those commercial drivers are 325% more likely to have an accident.
Oh, wow. Dr. Kirsch, in a recent article you wrote on MVRs, and by the way, you can read the article in its entirety by going to driversalert.com and visiting the blog section. You stated, and I quote, "Simply pulling an MVR once a year doesn't cut it." Would you please explain that statement?
Well, the problem with an MVR is as soon as you pulled the MVR, it's already dated, and it's not necessarily going to include all the citations that have been adjudicated due to the timing and the inaccuracy of the court reporting systems and the various differences between states. So really, monthly monitoring gives you a fighting chance to find out what's been going on that driver record without having to wait a year to get it.
Well, that just about does it for our time. That will conclude this episode of Drivers Alert Safety Talks. Special thanks to Dr. Ron Kirsch for his professional insight. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Until next time, please drive safely.
Good boy.